he openly recognizes that, subject to verification of what had happened in his absence, there can never be a justification of those despicable acts. And for that, he apologizes to those whose human rights have been trampled upon, unreservedly, to the extent that these atrocities were perpetuated at an establishment of which he is a director. He wanted us to put that up front. He did not run away. He is not running away. He is seated to my left. The police can confirm independently his cooperation. I can also confirm that now that I am on board, we will facilitate whatever support and cooperation that the police needed. A few days ago, they requested further information, again, before my involvement, and that information was made available. The significance of me highlighting that is simply to demonstrate that you're not dealing with someone who is not prepared to take accountability to the extent that there is legal accountability to be taken. If at the end of the police investigation he becomes a person of interest, he will cooperate just like any other responsible, corporate and natural citizen of this country. He does not locate himself above the law. He does not locate himself above the law. Sadly, the incident, when it first broke, an impression was created that it might have been a new incident. We have now come to learn from the fact establishment exercise that he undertook that this incident is approximately just shy over 3 years. He had no knowledge of it. We understand what the law says on both criminal liability as well as civil liability of directors. So we are not here as a PR exercise. I'm a lawyer, not a spin doctor. My role is to make sure that in his urge to speak his truth to power, he does not compromise himself legally. Because he wanted to speak, I'm told, last week. And I suggested that perhaps he should hold off until we've had a consultation, which we did yesterday. And that is why we are coming out to say what we are saying. So some people may think that it's a mop-up exercise. It's fine, everybody's entitled to their views. But what is important is that if he has to account legally, both from a criminal law point of view or from a civil law point of view, there he is. He will subject himself to that. We are not speaking on behalf of anyone who is not seated at the front table. He is not going to speak ill or point fingers at anyone. But what he knows objectively as verifiable facts, he will continue to share with the law enforcement officials, slightly in a more structured manner through my assistance. That is the point. We are not going to stand here and pretend that we can simply walk away because he was not there, he didn't give any instructions, this happened without his knowledge. I know what the law says. I have explained to him what the legal position is. The only plea is for everyone to respect the sensitivities of the rights that have been trampled upon while we allow the law to take its course. And once the police are done with the investigations, they will act accordingly. And once there is a case to be answered by him or any other person, I undertake to take him by the scruff of his neck to the police so that he can be processed accordingly. We are not there yet. The police have not given an indication that they are treating him as a suspect. If anything, the police are engaging with him as a person from whom they can source some information to enable them to decide whatever they want to do. We respect that. We don't want to preempt the outcome. We are also aware that someone was arrested, appeared in court yesterday. It's got nothing to do with him. We will just watch that space. It has been reported in the media that other people are being sought. Those people who are being sought and pursued by the police are none other than him, because he is here. The police know how to get hold of him. They have engaged with him. They will continue to engage with him, even through my facilitation. My client felt that it was important as a South African to come out in the open and say, I am the director of this entity, and I am prepared to be held accountable, and I am prepared for my role, actions or omissions to be tested against the applicable legal principles. He's not about to leave the country. He's not going anywhere. He's a young man, a young entrepreneur with a bright future. You will probably ask yourself, what is his father doing here? He's neither a shareholder nor a director, nor involved in any other manner. I asked them yesterday in a consultation, what are your views as a family? The father said, this which is being circulated goes against every values and ethos that we have engendered in our children. And as a father, I want to face the country together with my son and say, what has happened is atrocious, it's unpardonable. Not in our name, but because we know that there is some responsibility to be shouldered. Let us allow that process to unfold and support the operation of the rule of law. And that is why the father is here, to simply say it can never be right. In fact, he said to me, I would believe it if that was done to my own children. So I put myself in the position of the parents of those victims, regardless of the circumstances. That conduct is simply unacceptable, and I as a parent must be seen to be supporting the efforts that condemn that. The situation is currently fluid. We gave an undertaking to those who are tasked with the investigation of this matter that nothing will be put out there that may potentially compromise the progress that is being made. To the extent that I am constrained to share some more specific details with you, it is not because we are trying to skirt the issue. We are more concerned about not compromising an ongoing investigation. What we can tell you is that up until when he first engaged with the police, there was no knowledge that the victims had reported that incident as far back as when it happened. If they did, that knowledge does not repose in his mind. Secondly, he has not and will not engage with the victims, lest he is accused of interfering with an investigation. I advised him to stay clear. I also advised him to stay clear from engaging with those who the police are looking for, if they may wish to reach out to him, to demonstrate that there is nothing to hide. It is an unfortunate incident, and he is prepared to do whatever it takes for justice to prevail. Justice not only for the victims, but justice for him as well. We live in days when a lot can easily be said in the media and it grows legs, which is why as human beings there's a temptation to want to clear yourself and defend yourself. I advised, which advice has been accepted, that beyond this engagement there will be no further media engagements on this issue, so that we allow the investigations to continue. We allow other bodies to continue with what they do, because he is under a legal duty to cooperate. There is the issue of the license of the establishment. There's issues of other interested stakeholders. And whatever we do, we need to be cautious not to trample on the rights or into the terrain of others. That's why our approach is very focused and guarded. To say for the first time, there is publicly for the world to see. What I can guarantee you is that from the facts that we have gathered and established, watch the space. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. Yeah. From the facts that we have established and gathered, in the fullness of time, watch the space and see how this is going to pan out. And how is it that an incident that is 3 years old only came to the director's knowledge when it did to everyone else? It's a loaded statement, and I'm saying it quite carefully. I'm not one who filibusters and who would play to the gallery about important stuff. And it is for that reason that he continues to cooperate with all manner of investigations. There will come a time when we'll be bullish about the information and name and say who did what at what point. But I want to close by giving you the following points to ponder. One, has anyone so far, through your wires, indicated what role Mr. Neo Muela has played in this debacle? Two, if so, when was such information pertaining to his personal involvement made known? When was this incident first reported to the police? You don't need to be a lawyer to know that if you are violated in the manner in which it was depicted, the first and most natural thing to do is to report it to the police. If this matter was reported in 2022 when it allegedly took place, it would be interesting to see what became of that investigation then. If it got reported to the police 2 weeks ago or last week, the question should then be, why was such an act of gross violation of human rights not reported earlier? I say this because we have established the reason, and that we will share in the right forum at the right time. But at least as members of the Fourth Estate, as you do your investigative work, you need to start asking these questions. The case number would give an indication on when the case was reported. If this is linked to other cases, those case numbers will also give you an indication on when those other cases that are being said to be linked were reported. And who were the complainants and who were the persons of interest as far as the police investigation is concerned, if ever there was such. We stay clear of that. We will allow the police to do their work, and where they need support or assistance from my client, they will get that support. Obviously, within reason. If the police take the view that they now regard him as a suspect, then of course his constitutional rights kick in, just like any other person's rights. But so far, he is cooperating on a voluntary basis, and there's no reason for that to stop. I think that should then bring me to a close by way of that scene setting. We are prepared to take questions, and I will be answering the questions. I instructed him. For the first time, you get instructed by clients, but this time around I instructed him to remain stump and let me handle these so that I remove the subjectivity element and engage with you openly, objectively, and as honestly as I always try to do. So I will pause there and take some questions now that you understand who's before you, man.
Okay.
In that order, Pule, and I'll come to the brother here at the front. Thank you.
Christopher Brown from Front. Thank you very much for the briefing, sir. I've got a few questions. First of all, when did your client become a director of this nightclub? Exact date. For background, did he start a nightclub? Did he buy it from somebody else? And what is the relationship with a guy called Cohen, who was reportedly one of the people involved in this nightclub from the very beginning? Question number 2. You say your client never knew about this particular incident or incident that took place until recently when it was reported. Is he saying to us clearly that as a director and as a person running this nightclub, that he had no knowledge up to now, despite indication that you may have that cases were opened with the police long before, a week or 2 or 3 ago? And number 3, the city of says that this nightclub had no zoning or planning permission. The alcohol license has now been withdrawn. What is the status?
So it's actually one
technically
director
running an illegal establishment,
yes, and that's here.
With no city planning. And how does he condone running an establishment with no necessary permissions in place? Thank you.
Okay, Yusuf, let me deal with that before, because you've said quite a mouthful. What you are saying is what you heard from the city. You are better positioned. All I can tell you is that whatever was required to be submitted by him has been submitted. And if
submitted or approved?
I am telling you that he is cooperating as a director, right? And I am saying whatever has been asked of him to submit, he has submitted. I do not want to accept your challenge to debate the authenticity of what you're saying with you. I'm simply recognizing you're asking a question. And I said to you, the investigation is ongoing at various levels. There's a police investigation. There's an investigation by the city from a bylaw point of view. There is also an investigation from the liquor board, to the extent that they are a licensing authority. Information has been requested of him. Information has been submitted. And to the extent that those who are investigating require more documentation to interrogate what they have received, will comply and they'll make a pronouncement. Your questions will be best answered once any investigative body has said, based on what we have evaluated, this is our finding. And then we can engage with that. It would be a bit of a lapse of diplomacy if I were to respond in that manner, because I understand you're asking probing questions which it may not be appropriate to respond to now, because this is not a forum at which he is expected to prove his innocence or guilt. Now, you also said that he is a director of a nightclub. That's where you're getting it wrong again. The nightclub is a trading name. He is a director of an entity. I am not at liberty to explain the structure to you, because if I did that, it's going to lead to other people on whose mandate I do not act.
So he's not the only director?
I am saying to you, when the structure becomes public knowledge, it will become immediately clear who the role players are. I am saying it, Yusuf, if We've done this a lot, and I am saying to you, you can go now, I challenge you, you can go to the CIPC website and see what you'll pick up under Zanzou. And that's precisely the point I'm making. I am saying you can read between the lines. He is not, or he was not the only director. There are other people on whose behalf I cannot speak. And that is why I am saying to you, all of the questions that you have asked, the information pertaining to that has been asked for, it has been submitted. It will be silly of us to comment on that before those to whom it has been submitted have done their own independent verification or made a view about it. That's all I'm prepared to say on that. Unfortunately, I cannot assist you beyond that. Of course, if it turns out that an illegal outfit was run, we all know what the law is. I can't sit here and say it's okay to run an outfit that is not properly sanctioned. That's not what today's exercise is about. Let that process happen. And let him face the music if it turns out that all of the things that we have postulated are not correct. But what I am saying to you is that the information pertaining to the questions that we have asked, to the extent that it has been requested of him, he has made it available. He will still make others available as and when requested. That we will do.
And when did he get, my question, when did he get first to know about this incident? Are you giving us the assurance it was now a week or 2 or 3 ago? And not before?
I cannot give you an assurance. I can give you my instructions. My instructions are that he knew of it when it broke that Monday early in the morning. He then contacted various people to ascertain the facts that I say we have ascertained. Now, I wish I could welcome the gauntlet and say 1, 2, 3 is what has happened. I'm not going to do that because I will be undermining an investigation that is being spearheaded by law enforcement agencies.
My question about the previous charges, are you insinuating, sir, that there were previous charges opened before this particular charge?
You know those charges I don't. You have not given me case numbers. You have not given me any information that I could have verified.
We could also have a chance. That would be lovely.
Please.
Zola
Then I'll come to you, Bull, after
from
a month.
Africa. I think the first question, which I was also going to ask that Yusuf asked was, when did Neo become a director of Zulida, which we know is trading as Zanzou?
Yes.
The reason the date of his appointment as a director is important is because the cases that we have that are in front of the Pretoria Magistrates Court right now relate to events April 2022, January 2023. So if he's saying he had no knowledge, these activities would have been happening in his establishment in that time frame. So that's why the directorship is important.
I can answer that.
And I would love the chronology. I know that you are a director of this particular entity. The previous director is listed as Stephen Cohen. The silent partners are listed as Alan and Rani Kobesi. Are they your partners? Have you been in contact with them? We understand the Kobesi brothers might have skipped South Africa. And my third question is, do you know the suspect who is in court, and do you know Pablo, the whistleblower?
Okay.
To
Okay, then we can take them as one.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the same breath, I just wanted to ask about Irani and Alan Farsi, the Lebanese guys who were reportedly silent partners in this business. What was their involvement in this operation as well? And secondly, is your client willing to turn state witness in this case, cooperating with law enforcement as well?
Okay. I think, Iman, I like your question because everything else flows from that. He was a director of Zuleda, or he has been, and I'm speaking only for him, since 2018. 2018. So, when the incidents to which you are referring to, which I have no knowledge of, took place, obviously he would have been a director. So he's not running away from that. He's not saying, I did not know because I was a director much later or anything of. He's simply saying, you can objectively establish for yourselves when he became a director, when did he cease to be a director? He has not ceased to be a director. He's still a director. That is why he's being accountable. That's why he's sitting here. Conclude about other people whose names we are not mentioning his names you are mentioning. So the short answer is he has been a director since when he was appointed a director to this very day. So if there are cases, 50 or 20 of them, that have been reported, to the extent that they involve him or to the extent that he has been subpoenaed or he's a person of interest, he will submit himself to those. But he says none of these things have been brought to his attention. That is not to say legally there is no accountability. We need to draw that distinction. And to answer the detail of the questions that you are asking would potentially prejudice and compromise this investigation. I have said to you, he went and spoke to other stakeholders when this information surfaced. So of course you can accept that he spoke to various people. And whatever he established from that exercise has been shared with the team, will continue to be shared with the team. So it would not be wise or advisable to tell you who he spoke to. You've mentioned the names. We're neither going to confirm or deny that, but you can accept that everyone who had anything to do with the business was, as far as he knows, or to the best of his knowledge, spoken to. And he shared that information on 2 occasions with the police. Is he going to 10 state witness? A person 10 state witness if a person is charged. And it is an option that you get given by the prosecuting authority. We're not in that province yet. He has not been charged. As at yesterday, there was no indication that he is a suspect. But of course, if the police believe that they have gathered enough evidence at a particular point and they want to charge him, he will be charged and he will appear in court like everyone else. Has he spoken to the person who appeared in court yesterday? No, he has not. Does he know people that worked in those establishments to the extent that you mentioned them by names? Some he knows, some he may not know. I cannot, unfortunately, say to you, this particular person's role was this is who the silent partner or this or that. That information is objectively verifiable and it will be made available to the police beyond what has been made available. We are aware that someone appeared in court yesterday. In fact, they appeared while we were sitting in a consultation. And I asked him, have you spoken to this person? The answer was no. Other people are said to have skipped the country. We're not speaking on their behalf. Whether they've skipped or they've left or whatever, that's not something that my client should be expected to answer to. But he, to the extent that he is a director and has been a director since that time, 2018, he'll be accountable within the confines of the law. He will be accountable. That is why he's standing here alone. To say, I am a director of Zuleida, which as part of its outfit has Zanzou. I take note of an incident that has happened. I condemn it, I do not condone it, I did not sanction it, but that is not where the inquiry ends. The law works differently, you all know that. And to the extent that there is criminal liability, along the lines that you have suggested about other cases, let the law take its course. To the extent that there may be civil liability, again, on account of his directorship, let the law take its course. If he is going to, or the establishment is going to lose the license, or it's going to be suspended or uplifted, let the tribunal follow the rule of law and let it take its course. The question that I was hoping perhaps would be top of mind is, where are other people who were... Let me finish the thought and I will allow you to try and show you that we're not dealing with someone who's running away or avoiding responsibility. Your responsibility from your point of view is different to the legal responsibility that is still yet to be determined. Now, it will be foolhardy for me as a lawyer to enter that terrain to answer your questions, because they may well determine how the law treats him. But what the intention was is to say, I am here, I haven't left the country, I'm not about to leave the country, the police knows where I am, I engage with the police on my own on 2 occasions, without the benefit of a lawyer. If the police call me again tomorrow to say, come, let's see you, the only difference is that he will go there with a lawyer. And if the police believe that they have enough to effect an arrest, we're not saying he shouldn't be arrested, he may not be arrested. It may well be that when he is arrested and he is prosecuted, for example, the question that Pula was asking about state witness will become relevant then. But I can't preempt what is going to happen. It's a premature question because it presupposes someone who's already in the dock, who is offered to be a 204 witness in exchange for giving information, then you are indemnified. We know where next to that. The police still call on him to say, give us this, give us that. And by the way, we are also looking at this other investigation. Do you have knowledge about information? He shares what he shares. Now, how much should he make available? It is informed by how much he knows. Now, obviously, what is capturing your attention and your imagination is the fact that there are many other cases about this establishment. Now, the chronology of who did what at that particular time then becomes relevant. 2018 was pre-COVID. We also know that COVID happened and these establishments suffered a knock like everybody else. Now, the cases to which you are referring, it may well be that the chronology may answer who had what to do pertaining to those cases. But he has not been charged. He has not been charged for those cases that you say have been reported. He has not been charged for operating an unlawful outlook. If he's been operating an unlawful outlook, then he must be charged like everyone else. He's not above the law. That is the point. I know, Iman, you know, you would have probably pulled a SIPCO report. You would have seen who the directors are. You would have seen who would have resigned when, who is still currently the director. And I am saying I only act for one director, who is this one, who is saying, I'm prepared to be held publicly accountable. I'm prepared to be taken through the value chain of the rule of law. We are not moving away from that position. He says that he is facing you alone. And unfortunately, I wish I could answer for others, but I do not have that mandate. You wanted to follow up, Pule? Have I covered it? My brother here in the front, sorry, I don't know your name. So.
It's Alpha Bushara from Eyewitness News.
Yes, Alpha.
Mr. Majavu, the argument that your client did about these incidents isn't very convincing. Because as a director, I would assume that he would approve or would know that the establishment is going to release a media statement. And shortly after the incident went viral, in the media statement, literally the second paragraph, they admitted that they knew about these incidents. And when they knew, they immediately dismissed the bouncers or the security personnel that were involved in the torturing of patrons. So, do you expect South Africans to really believe that your client really didn't know about the incidents, despite what we saw in the media statements just a few hours after the videos went viral? Thank you.
I do not expect South Africans to believe anything. I expect South Africans to conclude for themselves based on the information available at their disposal. Just simple as that. If it is not convincing to you, let's hear what the court says about what he has to say if it gets to that point. I am saying to you again that he stands by the submissions I am making before you. And if you are not persuaded because of something that you read previously, I can't fault you for that because you're comparing the two. You make your own conclusions, sir. The idea was not to convince anyone or to make him a pity basket case or a media spin. All of these things are still to be tested. And it may well be that the court or other tribunals may say yea or nay, having weighed all the information before us. You are in a better position because you have compared. You have something against which to compare, and that is why you are saying you are not convinced. And it's not my job to persuade you.
Thank you. I'm Hawala Mahola from the UFM. So this question by Alpha was not answered to satisfaction. He needed confirmation as to whether your client was privy to the statement that was issued hours after the incident came to light. That you did not answer that. But also, what is the purpose of this exercise? It's rather unusual for people who find themselves in situations like this to employ the services of a lawyer. I would imagine that you are already incurring costs. I don't think Mr. Majavu comes very, very cheap. You are hiring a hotel.
No, you address me, not my client.
Understand people don't go through that. What is the purpose of this exercise? And also the point that you make that you are also seeking justice, not just for the victims, but for him as well. I want to understand, how is he a victim in this kind of circumstances? And finally, the question of, as a director, what was the nature of his involvement? Was he occupying a managerial post, especially around the time that this incident is said to have happened? And if yes, was he so negligent that people could come up with, take decisions to say, if you offend like this, we punish you like this without him? Exactly how did these things happen without his knowledge when he's partly an owner of the establishment?
Okay, let's deal with his choice to legal representation at whatever stage. I'm sure you'd be the first to acknowledge that it is his constitutional right. Whether I come cheap or not, that's a bit on the more condescending side. But the fact of the matter is you don't even know what the financial agreement. I could be doing this pro bono for all I care. But having said that, as a lawyer, I don't invite clients. Clients come to me, right? There is a matter that has potential legal ramifications, and he cannot be faulted for seeking legal advice. I have said to you, he started engaging with the police even without a lawyer. At no point have I engaged with the police on his behalf. I'm telling you with a straight face. I only consulted with them yesterday, having had 2 engagements with the police, having subsequently supplied information that the police requested. And he says he will continue to do so, because some of the questions you are asking will be precisely answered by those things. You want to know what was his role. I said to you, to answer that, we'll have to go into the organogram and the structure of how their operations were structured. I can do that. I will do that in the appropriate forum. I am not in a position to do so here and now, because that may potentially compromise an investigation, not by him, but by the police and other law enforcement agencies. That's the only reason I cannot say to you, this is what his role was, this is what it extended to. Whether he was negligent or so negligent as you put it, I don't know. It is what will be answered by the objective facts. So I'm not going to get into that terrain. Now, if you say, was he aware of the media release? Does he distance himself from that? He says he is releasing what he knows. And he said they. He's speaking as an individual director here, holding to what he is saying himself. If what we say on his behalf contradicts what he said himself, then there's something to be argued about. Again, you're asking me what is the purpose of this exercise. The purpose of this exercise is not to make it interesting to the public. It is of what is in the public interest. What is in the public interest is that an establishment in which he is a director is said to have perpetuated these atrocities. He says, as a director, I do not condone this. I have no knowledge of it, but I am not saying do not hold me accountable or do not hold me liable, because the law operates differently. And if the law believes that there is enough to hold him accountable as a director, either criminal or civilly, then that's what we do. That's what would happen. But at the moment, it's interesting that the people who are tasked with the investigation or the fact establishment are the ones who are relying on him to furnish them with information, which he has been doing, even without a lawyer. He will continue to do so, even with a lawyer present. And if the police decide we have enough now to charge him, he's negligent, he's done all of these violations, then he gets subjected to those criminal charges, and then we answer in that particular forum. The purpose of this exercise was simply for him to stand up before you and take accountability to say, I am a director, I was a director, I have never ceased to be a director, including when these incidents took place. And I'm saying, let the law hold me to account in the manner in which the law operates. I'm repeating it. That's what he is saying. It may well be that what you're postulating is correct. And if it is correct, then let him be subjected to the rule of law. But he is here. Iman, and then behind Iman.
There was a question of justice for him. On which basis and what nature of justice?
If aspersions are cast against your entity, if you, for example, you work for the SABC, if something happens even outside of the premises, someone was found swearing at people in an aeroplane, the brand that gets affected is whose? Is the SABC. The SABC is entitled, as an example of public knowledge, to say this is what we are going to do to protect our brand. In this instance, he's not running away from the fact that he's associated with Zanzou. But he says, to the extent that I'm a director, there's a reputation damage to my brand. There's a reputation damage to me as a person. And for that, I will speak. Whether I am believed or disbelieved, it's something else. It cannot be that everybody else has an opinion about him and he doesn't. That is why the father says, this is not the values that we taught you. And this is why we need to condemn this, not to avoid liability or accountability, no. So that is the purpose. That is why he felt that he needed to engage. He could have done this even without me, as he was intending to do, like I said. And I said, hold on. Let's rather do it in a structured manner so that as you engage in this exercise, you do not expose yourself unnecessarily, because there are legal processes that are underway. You would do the same if you're in that position. Maybe your approach might be slightly different. I'll take Iman and then the gentleman behind Iman.
Zola, with the greatest of respect, because we know each other for many, many years, the whole purpose of us coming here, or at least I'll speak for our media house, is the expectation that we know more than what's already in the public domain. We know the reports that have come out about partners and directors of the entity, Katlego Malachi, who, by his own account, is saying, I left in 2021 because I was concerned about human rights violations, to paraphrase what he said. As co-directors, this is information that Neo would already have in his purview. But over and over, all we're hearing is, I'm sorry this happened, I'm talking to the police, but beyond that I can't say anything else, which to me would have been served quite well in just, a press release. What we're hearing today is just something sanitized, and with as I said, with the greatest of respect, we're not learning too much more. The picture that's been painted is of this mafia, murky-like world, with these foreign players, these Lebanese and French-born owners of the company, who are nowhere to be seen. As you say, your client now is taking this on the chin by himself. So obviously the obvious questions are there. Number one, who authorized that press release? Is it Neil's press release, or is it the other partners and directors' press release? If the press release is something we stand on, as other journalists have pointed out, it is clear they've launched their own investigation, they fired the security team, they're aware of the incident. Why didn't they go to the police back then? There are too many things that don't make sense.
And you know, Iman, you're not wrong. You're not wrong in your how you are postulating your position. But there are also some factual inaccuracies. You've just referred to someone, you have also referred to a particular date. I'm simply going to implore that you go back and do an independent verification exercise. The point of the matter here is, we took a conscious decision that we are not going to talk about people who are not here. We are not going to do that, because that is an undertaking that we gave. These obvious gaps that you are identifying, that you are hoping you will get answers to, you are not going to get answers to those questions in this forum, here and now. Because it does not mean that we don't have answers. It is about, if we do so, we run the risk of being accused of prejudicing an investigation. That's the only reason. And remember, Iman, the fact that you are going to leave here with a lot of questions unanswered does not mean that there are no answers. It does not mean that some of those answers have not been given. It does not mean that. It is up to those people to whom some of these answers have been given to follow up and verify the timelines to which you've just referred, one of which is incorrect, as an example. And let the investigation take its course. And if it is found that, look, the information that UNEL has submitted does not pass muster, or it doesn't square up when compared against other objective facts, then it is open to the police to say, we now have enough to now charge you for all of these historic atrocities. That door is still open. It may still happen. It may still happen. And I can give you my word of honor, Iman. We say we've come a long way. At the right forum, we'll be bullish about that information. And when that process is finalized, I'll give you a one-on-one. So I can say to you, when you asked me this question at that time, I did not answer it, not because there was no answer, I was avoiding it. These were the reasons. And it would have been tested in a court where it matters, in a court of law, or in a quasi-judicial tribunal. The difficulty with a court of public opinion is that we are all working on information that gets thrown out there. Some of it is objectively verifiable, some of it is not. That is the guarantee I can give you. Of course, the things that you are speaking about who the owners are, the nationalities, and that information is publicly available. But it will be foolhardy for it to be coming from him as a director who says, I am subjecting myself to the rule of law and I'll take accountability and answer where I have to answer. Unfortunately, we are simply not able to do so in this platform. And I'm sorry that I am disappointing you there. It doesn't change the fact of the longevity of our professional relationship, but I can assure you, we will engage with you more extensively. At least let the police say he's a potential accused or he's not, or we've closed our investigation. Then we can say, okay, let's have that one-on-one on these things. But at the moment, the police might even say, but the information that you gave us, which we are following up, is now out in the public domain. You are compromising that lead. And that is what we are cautious not to do. And that is the truth. As I know it, that is the truth that I will engage with you on after these processes have been finalized. Someone might have taken the view, in fact, one of your editors this morning said, maybe they should have waited. It's not a right or wrong approach. As a lawyer, I would have said, let's wait and see if you get charged, and then we deal with it. But the man says, I cannot keep quiet. As a South African entrepreneur, these things are out in the public domain. I want to take accountability and let the law take its course about me. Now, what's wrong with that? You may take the view that that approach was not correct. I'll probably agree with you as a lawyer. My first default position is shut up, let's see what the other side has against. But he says, I've already been cooperating with the police and everybody else. I'm prepared to give them as much information as they want from me, which will explain and locate my role, my action, my omission in this timeline, and let those who have their responsibility to decide on my criminal liability do so. I'm not going to take the view that I'm going to keep quiet, as I am constitutionally entitled to, but I'm going to be bullish about it. And that is the part that I think is missing. You didn't know that he had been voluntarily cooperating with the police. As far back as 2 days ago, they asked for some information, some documentation, crucial, which he made available. That is something that you would not have picked up from the media. There's a lot of things that are happening. The fact that you don't know about them does not mean that there is no traction or there are no answers being provided. And he'll continue to do so. That is the truth of where the matter is. And nobody knows where this thing is going to end. He may be criminally charged, they may lose the license or whatever, but my limitation is that I'm